Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to plunge into the source material and pull out the most vital insights, the really surprising facts, all curated just for you.
That's the plan.
And today, we're setting off on quite a journey, aren't we? We're looking at a pivotal period in Indian history, the Mughal Empire.
Absolutely. A dynasty that kicked off, 1526? And lasted over 3 centuries. Just incredible influence.
Huge. So our mission today really is to sift through all this material we have, get those key nuggets of knowledge about how it all started. We'll look at the rise, the early bumps in the road.
Yeah, the founder, his successor who kind of struggled, this brilliant, almost interim figure who pops up, and then, well, one of the biggest names in global history.
Exactly. And this isn't going to be just, a list of dates. We want to get into the personalities, the policies, the battles, obviously, and how these early leaders really shaped things.
You've got amazing stories here, unbelievable of physical strength, huge strategic mistakes, administrative genius popping up. It's quite the mix.
It really is. So let's dive in. Where better to start than with the man who kicked it all off, Babur.
Babur. Yeah, he really marks the start of this new chapter in 1526. And his background, I mean, it's just incredible. You've got Timur on his father's side.
Right.
And Genghis Khan on his mother's. Talk about a lineage.
Wow. That's some serious conqueror DNA right there. But beyond the family tree, the sources paint him as this, well, physically extraordinary individual.
Oh, yeah, it's almost legendary stuff. I mean, the sources say he could run along a rampart carrying 2 men in his arms. Can you even picture that?
That's hard to imagine. And the swimming thing.
Right. Famously swam across every river he encountered in India, apparently crossed the Ganges in just 33 strokes, just out of sheer enthusiasm. That tells you something about his energy, his vitality.
That kind of personal drive must have counted for a lot on the battlefield. Which brings us to that first really crucial moment, Panipat, 1526. What gave him the edge against Lodi's much bigger army?
Well, Panipat, April 21st, 1526. It was fundamentally about tactics and technology. Lodi had the numbers, sure, but it was a bit unwieldy, disorganized.
Okay.
Babur's force, smaller but highly trained, disciplined. And the key, the absolute key, was his artillery. He got it from Turkey.
The cannons.
Exactly. It wasn't just a battle win, it was a statement. Superior tech, superior tactics.
Yeah.
And just like that, he's the ruler of Delhi. Not quite king of all India yet, but Delhi's his.
Right, a massive first step. So Delhi's secured. What's the next big hurdle? Because it wasn't smooth sailing, was it?
Not at all. The next major challenge was Rana Sanga, probably the most powerful ruler Babur had faced up to that point. Rana Sanga pulls together this huge Rajput confederacy.
Okay, a serious threat then.
A very serious threat. They clash at Kanua near Agra in 1527. Babur wins again. And this victory is huge. It gives him control over central India and really weakens that united Rajput power bloc. It paves the way for further expansion.
And he keeps pushing, doesn't he? Gwalior, Dholpur, Chanderi in 1528.
Yeah, consolidating his gains. His last major victory comes at Gagra in 1529. He defeats a combined force of Afghans and the king of Bengal.
So by then, his empire's looking pretty substantial. Afghanistan to Bihar, basically.
Exactly. He laid the foundation. A foundation his grandson, Akbar, would build upon magnificently, as we'll get to.
And we get glimpses of his personality, too, right? Through his writings.
Yes, the Tazukhi Babri, his autobiography and his diary, that reveal this fascinating mix, incredible ability, courage, sure, but also this artistic side.
And then there's that story about Humayun. It's quite moving.
It really is. His son, Humayun, is deathly ill. Doctors can't help. Babur's advised, give up your most precious thing.
And then he says,
I am the most valuable thing Humayun possesses. He walks around his son's bed 3 times, praying to take the illness onto himself. And the story goes, Babur falls ill, and Humayun starts recovering.
Wow. Whether it happened exactly like that or not, it speaks volumes about him as a father and a leader.
A really powerful image to start the dynasty. But, personal strength doesn't always mean a smooth succession. Humayun takes the throne in 1530, and things get complicated fast.
Yeah, it sounds like he inherited a throne, but also a whole heap of problems. What were the main challenges straight off the bat?
Well, first off, the Afghans weren't done. You've got Sher Shah lurking, building power, wanting the Mughals out.
Okay, the old enemy.
Then there's Bahadur Shah of Gujarat, causing trouble, and just the general perception, the Mughals were still seen by many as outsiders, kind of fuse foreign.
And internally, his own family.
That was maybe the biggest problem. His brothers, Hindal, Kamran, Asghari. Humayun was generous, gave them big territories to govern, but they were ambitious. constantly plotting against him. It really undermined his rule from the very beginning.
And adding to all that, Humayun himself. The sources suggest he wasn't quite cut from the same cloth as Babur.
No, he wasn't the same kind of military leader, for sure. Lacked that decisiveness. He'd start campaigns, then get distracted, leave things half-finished.
And there was the opium issue mentioned.
Yes, the sources are pretty clear on that. His love for opium seems to have kept him sort of detached from the urgent realities he was facing. Gave his enemies openings.
He was kind of his own worst enemy in a way.
You could say that. It
Yeah.
showed early on. Like in 1531, he marches against Bahadur Shah in Gujarat, defeats him easily. Bahadur Shah runs off.
Okay, sounds good so far.
But then Humayun appoints his brother, Ascari, as governor. And what does this Ascari do? He basically throws parties, feasts, doesn't consolidate the win.
Oh, no.
Exactly. So Bahadur Shah just waltzes back in and retakes his lost territories. A massive blunder, really.
And then comes the big one, Sher Shah Suri. He was becoming a real power player, wasn't he?
Absolutely. This Afghan leader, Sher Shah, had consolidated his position, started challenging Bengal. When he invades Bengal again around 1537, Humayun finally realizes, okay, this guy's a serious threat. He marches east.
But things go wrong back home.
Terribly wrong. While Humayun's trying to sort things out in Bengal, his brother Hindal declares himself emperor in Agra, and Kamran seizes Delhi.
Unbelievable. So Humayun's forced to turn back.
He has to. But on his way back, Sher Shah intercepts him at Chalsa in 1539. Total defeat for Humayun. He barely escapes with his life.
Just disaster after disaster.
And it wasn't over. They face off again at Kanauj in 1541. Another crushing defeat for the Mughals. And that's it. Humayun loses his kingdom entirely.
So he becomes a wanderer for how long?
For 15 long years. From 1541 to 1555, he's basically a fugitive moving from place to place seeking help.
Wow. But he does eventually make a comeback.
He does. He gets crucial help from the ruler of Iran. With that support, he manages to recapture Kabul and Kandahar from his brothers, actually. And then finally, he retakes Delhi in 1555.
15 years later. But he didn't get to enjoy it for long.
Tragically, no. Just months later, in 1556, he dies from an accidental fall down the stairs of his library in the Purana Kila.
What an end. So summing up his failure, it was a mix of things. His own lack of military skill, indecisiveness.
Definitely. Plus the constant betrayal by his brothers. You can't underestimate that. And yes, that opium addiction seems to have really clouded his judgment at critical moments.
A really rocky reign. And that instability created the vacuum for Sher Shah Suri to step in properly.
Exactly. Humayun's exile is Sher Shah's reign, essentially. He reestablishes Afghan power in Delhi, conquers huge swaths of territory, Malwa, Punjab, Multan, Sindh, Rajasthan.
He built a massive empire very quickly, and there's that story about how he got his name.
Yeah, it's a good one. Apparently, as a young man named Hassan, he killed a lion single-handedly. His master, the governor of Bihar, was so impressed, he nicknamed him Sher Khan, Lion Lord. The name stuck. Sher Shah Suri.
A fitting name, but his reign was cut short too, wasn't it?
Very short. He died in 1545 from an accidental gunpowder explosion during the siege of Kalinjar Fort. Ironically, his forces captured the fort even as he lay dying.
So a brief reign, but incredibly impactful. And the sources really stress his administration, maybe even more than his conquests. Why is that?
That's the fascinating thing. His military success was undeniable, but his administrative reforms were so effective, so well thought out, that they became the bedrock for future rulers. Even the British, centuries later, based parts of their system on his.
That's incredible longevity. So what was the secret?
I think it was his focus on efficiency, fairness, and the welfare of the people. He understood that a stable empire needs more than just military might. It needs good governance that people can rely on. He was a benevolent despot, you could say, but genuinely concerned.
How did he structure it at the top?
Centrally, he had 4 key ministers, like pillars. Diwani Wizrat handled finance, Diwani Aris for the army, Diwani Raswat for foreign affairs, and Diwani Insha looked after royal communications. Pretty clear division of responsibilities.
And that structure went down through the empire.
All the way down. Provinces called Sarkars, then Parganas below that, right down to the village level. Villages had their local councils, the panchayats dealing with local stuff, with officials like the Patwari keeping land records, and the Mukwadam as headman. It's quite detailed.
And his army reforms. You mentioned he learned from past rulers.
Yes, he took military power very seriously. He personally oversaw recruitment and training, paid soldiers fixed salaries in cash, which wasn't always the norm. And crucially, he brought back Alauddin Khilji's system of branding horses, the Daw system.
To stop soldiers bringing borrowed or low-quality horses on muster.
Exactly. And maintaining descriptive roles of the soldiers themselves, the hulia or chera. It was all about preventing fraud and ensuring the army was actually as strong as it looked on paper. Really smart.
Okay, but the real highlight seems to be his revenue administration. What made it so special?
It was his masterpiece, truly. Land revenue was the main income, obviously. He improved on what came before by insisting on annual uniform land surveys. They used these bamboo rods, jeribes, joined with iron rings so they wouldn't shrink or expand with the weather.
Consistency, right.
Precisely. Then they classified the land, good, medium, bad, based on fertility and how often it was actually cultivated. The state's share was fixed, usually 1/3 of the produce based on that classification.
So it was fairer to the farmers.
Much fairer. The assessment was lenient, though the collection was strict. He also helped farmers out during bad harvests, offered loans. And then there's the Pata and Kolbuliyat system.
Ah, yes. Explain those.
Okay, so the Pata was basically a title deed given to the farmer, clearly stating the land area and the amount of revenue due. The Kolbuliyat was the farmer's agreement to pay that amount.
So it formalized the agreement, reduced disputes.
Exactly. It protected the farmer from random demands by officials and ensured the state got its predictable revenue. It boosted agriculture, improved peasant conditions, and filled the treasury. Win-win-win.
He clearly understood economics. What about trade?
He actively encouraged it, got rid of a whole load of confusing internal customs duties. Basically, tax was charged only twice: when goods entered the territory and when they were sold.
Simple.
Very effective. And he focused on making the roads safe for merchants, introduced standard weights and measures too.
And the currency reform that silver rupee had a long life, didn't it?
An incredibly long life. He got rid of the old, debased mixed metal coins, introduced standardized gold, silver, and copper coins. His silver rupee was so pure and well-regarded, it remained the standard through the whole Mughal period. And, astonishingly, the British East India Company used it right up until 1835.
Wow. That really speaks to its quality.
It absolutely does. Facilitated trade immensely.
But what people often remember most are the roads and the sarais, the Grand Trunk Road.
Yes, it's justly famous for it. That massive road stretching from Sonargaon in Bengal way out to the Indus in the northwest.
And it wasn't just a road, was it? It was infrastructure.
Total infrastructure. He had shade trees, fruit trees planted along it. And every few miles, these sarais or rest houses, around 1,700 of them.
1,700.
Yeah. Each with a mosque, separate quarters for Hindus and Muslims, and a police official, the shitar, stationed there for security.
So they weren't just motels, they were hubs.
Exactly. There are also post offices, dak chowkis, helping official mail and news travel fast. They made travel safer, easier, boosted trade, allowed troops and officials to move quickly. K.K. Konugo wasn't wrong calling them the arteries of the empire.
A perfect description. And his justice system sounds, well, quite strict, but fair.
Very strict, very fair. He had high ideals. Impartiality was key, no favors, even for his own relatives. If high officials messed up, the punishment was severe.
And that unique idea about holding local officials responsible for crime.
Yes. If a crime happened in their area, the local headman had to find the culprit, or they'd be punished themselves.
That must have concentrated minds.
Apparently. The sources claim it made things so safe that merchants could supposedly leave their goods unattended because even the thieves were afraid of the system breaking down. Maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but it points to a remarkable level of order.
He was a builder too, right? The Purana Kila.
Yes, the old fort in Delhi, the Purana Kila, is largely attributed to him, along with a beautiful mosque inside it, and his own tomb at Sasaram in Bihar. It's stunning, built on a platform in the middle of a lake, considered one of India's architectural gems.
So in just 5 years, he throws out the Mughals, builds this huge empire, sets up this incredibly efficient administration, all from relatively humble beginnings, pure ability.
An amazing story. A brief but brilliant interlude of Afghan rule defined by administrative genius.
But that interlude ended. Sher Shah's successors couldn't hold it together.
No, they fell into conflict, weakened the empire he'd built, and that created the opening Humayun needed for his comeback in 1555, which of course leads us straight to his son, Akbar.
Right, and Akbar inherits the throne under very difficult circumstances. He's only 13 when Humayun dies that accidental death in 1556.
13 years old, and the kingdom is precarious. Afghan chiefs are still around holding territory. It's far from a done deal.
This is where Bahram Khan comes in, isn't it? Humayun's trusted general, Akbar's tutor.
Absolutely crucial. Bahram Khan acts as regent. For those first few critical years, from 1556 to 1560, he's basically running the show, stabilizing things, guiding the young emperor. He deserves huge credit for securing that early period.
And they faced an immediate massive challenge, right? Himu.
Yes, Himu. He was a brilliant general, actually, serving Sher Shah's successor. He'd managed to capture both Agra and Delhi, a huge threat to the newly restored Mughal rule.
So another showdown at Panipat, the Second Battle of Panipat, November 1556.
Exactly. History repeats itself on that famous field. It's a fierce fight. Himu fights bravely, apparently even gets wounded in the eye by an arrow, but keeps going.
But the Mughals win.
They do. Himu is eventually captured and killed, and that battle is decisive. It really crushes the main Afghan challenge and secures the Mughal throne for Akbar properly this time.
So with Bahram Khan's help, the initial storm is weathered. Then Akbar takes the reins himself around 1560.
Yes. Bahram Khan departs for Mecca. Sadly, he's assassinated on the way, and the young Akbar, now about 18, assumes full control. And then begins this incredible period of expansion and consolidation.
He really starts building the empire in earnest. Malwa Gondwana.
Malwa in 61, Gondwana in 64, that's where Rani Durgawati put up that heroic resistance before falling. Then crucial conquests like Bengal in 76 and Gujarat in 78.
Why were Bengal and Gujarat so important?
Resources. Immense wealth. Fertile lands in Bengal and Gujarat had those vital ports for sea trade with the Middle East and Europe. Hugely important for the imperial treasury.
And his relationship with the Rajputs, that seems like a cornerstone of his policy.
It really was. Very strategic, very complex. He knew he couldn't just fight them all constantly. He needed allies. So he forms alliances, often through marriage.
Like with Raja Barmal of Amber.
Exactly. That was the first major one in 1562. His daughter married Akbar. This brought many powerful Rajput clans into the Mughal fold. They became pillars of the empire, serving in high positions in the army and administration. It fostered cooperation, a kind of cultural blending.
But not everyone agreed. Rana Pratap of Mewar.
The great exception. Rana Pratap famously refused to submit. Fierce resistance, the legendary Battle of Haldiati in 1576. Akbar's forces technically won the battle, but Rana Pratap escaped, continued guerrilla warfare from the hills his whole life. Mewar never fully submitted during Akbar's reign, a symbol of Rajput defiance.
So a mix of diplomacy and force. What about further afield? Northwest, Deccan.
Northwest was crucial for security and trade. He took Kabul in 85, Kashmir 86, Sindh 91, Kandahar 95. This really secured the frontier and boosted trade links with Central Asia and Persia.
Okay.
The Deccan down south was tougher. He faced stiff resistance from sultanates like Ahmednagar, especially from Chand Bibi, the queen regent there, and also Bijapur, Golconda. He made inroads, but the Deccan conquest wasn't fully completed under him.
So Akbar the Conqueror, yes, but he's known as Akbar the Great. What elevates him beyond just military success? What's the core insight, maybe, into why his reign was so transformative?
That is the question, isn't it? I think his greatness lies in that synthesis you mentioned earlier. He didn't just conquer, he built a system. A stable, unified, relatively inclusive system for its time.
So point one, political unification.
Absolutely. Babur started it, Humayun nearly lost it, Akbar consolidated it. Within about 20 years, he brought most of the subcontinent under his authority, from Assam way out to Kabul and Kandahar. He subdued most of the Rajputs, absorbed or ended the independent Muslim kingdoms. He created a unified political entity.
How did he manage such a vast area effectively? Administration must have been key.
Crucial. And he was brilliant at it. He created this imperial service, the Mansabdari system. It was genius, really.
How did it work?
Basically, nobles and officials, the Mansabdars, were appointed directly by him. They were given ranks called Mansabs, which determined their status, their salary, and importantly, the number of troops they had to maintain for the emperor.
So it tied military and civil roles together.
Exactly. A Mansabdar could be a military commander one day and a provincial governor the next. It created a unified nobility loyal to the emperor, based on merit and service, not just birth. And the empire itself was organized logically. Provinces, subas, districts, sarkars, subdivisions, parganas, down to the village. Very structured.
And his land revenue system, following Sher Shah's lead but improving it.
Yes, under his finance minister, the famous Raja Todar Mal. They refined the measurement systems, using those linked bamboo rods for accuracy. They did detailed surveys, classifying land based on fertility and cultivation history. Bolaj, Parati, Chachar, Banjar.
4 types.
Right. And the revenue demand, usually about 1/3 of the average produce over 10 years, was based on that. This system, Todar Mal's Bandobast, or the Ani Dasala, was mostly a Riotwari system the state collected directly from the cultivator, the Riot.
Cutting out middlemen.
Largely, yes. It ensured a steady income for the state, but was generally fair to the farmer. They even provided loans to Kavi in times of need. Result: agricultural prosperity, which fueled trade and the overall economy.
Okay, unification, administration, revenue. But the thing that really stands out is his policy of conciliation, isn't it? Trying to bridge religious and cultural divides.
This is arguably his most profound legacy. His Rajput policy was part of it, integrating powerful Hindu warriors into the state. But it went deeper.
His own background influenced this, being born in exile in a Hindu household.
Seems likely. Plus his liberal tutors, his Sufi influences, companions like Abul Fazl and Faizi, even his Shia regent Bahram Khan early on. He seemed genuinely interested in understanding different faiths. He adopted this idea of sulh,
Peace with all.
peace with all, universal tolerance. And this wasn't just philosophy, it translated into policy.
Like abolishing certain taxes.
Yes, huge moves. In 1563, he abolished the pilgrim tax levied on Hindus visiting their holy sites. Then in 1564, he got rid of the jizya, the poll tax on non-Muslims. These were deeply resented taxes. Abolishing them sent a powerful message of goodwill.
He also tackled social issues.
He did. Tried to curb practices like sati, widow burning, discouraged child marriage by setting minimum ages 16 for boys, 14 for girls. Quite progressive for the 16th century.
Which leads us to the Din Ilahi. What exactly was that? He built the Abad Khana, the house of worship.
Right, in 1575 at Fatehpur Sikri. Initially, it was for debates among Muslim scholars. But Akbar got disillusioned with their squabbling and opened it up to theologians of all religions, Hindus, Jains, Christians, Zoroastrians.
He wanted a meeting of minds.
He seemed to be searching for common truths. The Din Ilahi, introduced around 1582, came out of that. But it's crucial, the sources stress, it wasn't a new religion he was trying to impose.
So what was it then?
More like a moral code, an ethical system, or a kind of spiritual order for his inner circle. It drew on what he saw as the best principles from various faiths' belief in one God, virtues like courage, justice, piety, and importantly, loyalty to the emperor as God's representative on earth. A grand synthesis, maybe, but not a replacement religion.
What an incredible arc we've traced. From Babur, the powerful founder with that amazing lineage and physical prowess,
To Humayun, the struggling successor, hampered by rivals, his brothers, and his own weaknesses, losing it all.
then Sher Shah, that brilliant flash of administrative genius, setting benchmarks for governance with things like the Pada Qabaliyat and those vital roads and sarais.
And finally, Akbar, coming to the throne as a boy, surviving early threats with Bahram Khan's help, then building this colossal unified empire through conquest, yes, but more importantly, through brilliant administration, smart revenue systems, and that visionary policy of Silikul trying to knit together a diverse subcontinent.
This deep dive really highlights how much history turns on individuals, their strengths, their flaws, their ideas, military power, administrative skill, personal character, vision. It all plays a part in shaping these vast empires.
Absolutely. It makes you think, doesn't it? We've seen such different styles of leadership, different challenges, different innovations. If you had to pick one thing, based on what we've discussed, what do you think is the single most critical factor for a leader trying to build something lasting and positive, especially when dealing with so much diversity and so many challenges?
That's a great question to ponder.